welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you are new here. My name is Ellie and we have chilled out chats about anything and everything, and today's particular chat is going to be about the moon landing conspiracy theories. In particular, we'll be covering the conspiracy theories surrounding the first ever moon landing made by humans. So grab yourself a hot drink, a snack, a blanket, whatever you fancy, as we blast off into this chat together. On the 20th of July 1969, Commander Neil Armstrong and lunar module pilot Buzz Aldrin landed the Apollo lunar module Eagle on the moon. Neil Armstrong then became the first human to step onto the moon's surface, followed closely by Buzz Aldrin. Around 600 million people tuned in to watch this on television, and it became one of the most important events in history.
I'm going to step off the limb. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Just to give you a glimpse into this, in the United States, 94% of people who were watching television at the time tuned in to watch this specific event. People who didn't own televisions or were away from home at the time watched the coverage from bars, town squares, and department stores. After this amazing achievement, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin got back onto the ship and, with their third crew member Michael Collins, flew back to Earth and landed in the Pacific Ocean. And here we arrive at the conspiracy theories. Theories that the moon landing was a hoax by the US government in a ploy to win the space race against the Soviet Union gained popularity in the mid-1970s. At this point in time, the Vietnam War had recently ended after a long and horrendous 20 years. In this post-Vietnam War era, the American people were having a difficult time believing their government compared to previous years when the people and the state had a very strong relationship. This had been strengthened in America's victory in wars such as World War II, and the happiness and security of the American people was illustrated in the famous baby boom population. All of the theories that I'm talking about today are linked to the main theory that NASA couldn't safely land a man on the moon as John F. Kennedy had promised. Instead, it is proposed that NASA sent astronauts into Earth orbit, and when the mission was complete, they brought them back down. Some of these theories I can understand because maybe someone was a little bit confused as they were reviewing footage or photos, but there is one in particular that does make me laugh, and it is a proper conspiracy theory, but let's just get into these. Theory number one, the American flag looks like it is flapping in the wind. People have argued that in pictures from the Apollo 11 mission, the American flag looks like it is flapping in the wind, but how can that be if there is no wind on the moon? The fact is that it is not flapping, and it is also not an ordinary flag. Smartly, from avoiding the flag from slacking, NASA designed a special type of flag for this mission, and in fact for all 6 Apollo missions that made it to the moon. These flags had a horizontal rod included to make them stick out from the flagpole. During the Apollo 11 moon landing, the astronauts found it difficult to extend the rod all the way, and that's why in the photos there's a ripple effect that makes it look like it's waving. To further support this, if you look at the Apollo 12 pictures, you'll see that the flag has this same rod in the flag. And because the rod is facing down, that proves that it is an environment with no wind and that the flag's only support is provided by this rod. In video images from the Apollo 11 moon landing, you can see that the flag moves when the astronauts are fixing it to the moon's surface, because as they put it in, they were rotating it back and forth to get it into the soil, which made it look like it was moving. Alas, when they step away from it, it stays in the same shape because of that partially extended rod. Theory number two, the shadows are not right. In images from the first moon landing, you can see certain objects even when they are in a shadow. Conspiracy theorists have argued that if the sun was the only source of light on the moon, then this wouldn't be possible. They therefore suggested that this must be Hollywood lighting in the studio. So yes, I didn't think I would laugh this much making this video. Yes, the sun is the main source of light on the moon. However, it is not the only source. The lunar ground itself reflects the sun's light, which is how we can see it in the sky. I can't. So when we look at the photos on the moon surface, we can see that this reflecting of the light means that the light is scattering from the ground and just going everywhere, anywhere and everywhere, which is why we can see things even though they are in shadowy areas. Interestingly, this is how we can also see a plaque that Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin left on the moon's surface, even though it is lying within a shadow. Theory number 3, you can't see the stars. People have argued that in the photos from the moon landing, you cannot see stars in the sky. You can just see a black emptiness. The simple answer is that the stars are definitely there, they are just too faint to see. This does get technical, so please bear with me, I did struggle the first time I read this as well. The exposures of the astronauts on the moon are daylight exposures. As the surface is brightly illuminated from the sun, as we talked about earlier, and the astronauts are wearing bright white spacesuits, this means that the exposure on the astronauts' cameras was too short to capture the spacesuits and the moon's surface while also capturing the stars, which of course were far dimmer than everything else. A bag just fell down behind me and that scared the absolute out of me.
2 hours later.
There was even an example for people like me who take a while to get things. So if you go out onto your porch at night and turn on the lights and then look up at the sky, you will see with your naked eyes that there are stars in the sky. However, if you then use a quick capture camera, which I'm guessing is like all phone cameras as well, you are not going to be able to capture the stars on that camera. I am loving this. I'm loving the fact that science is just proving these theories to be wrong and just straight up being like, nope, go away. I love this one so much. You can't see Neil Armstrong's camera. In one of the most famous pictures from the moon landing, you can see Neil Armstrong reflected in Buzz Aldrin's visor. Some skeptics have pointed out that you cannot see Neil holding a camera, therefore he did not take the picture and someone else did. Let's just be real here, okay? We cannot expect anyone, doesn't matter, if you are in an astronaut suit, you have a lot going on, you have a lot of material around you. You cannot then be expected to take a big old this was in 1969 as well, so remember that. You cannot be expected to take a massive camera with you, hold it with you or strap it over your shoulder whilst you're on the moon. That is not what is expected. Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin would have needed something easy to access and something attached to their suits. So you'll see in the picture that Neil Armstrong is taking the picture because the camera is mounted onto the front of his suit. And you can see that his hands are down by this camera, so he is physically taking the photo. This is probably the most famous and outlandish conspiracy theories in terms of moon landing. Stanley Kubrick filmed it. So Stanley Kubrick obviously is known for directing many famous films, including 2001: A Space Odyssey, a film which I have not yet seen, but I will be seeing it. But this film was really popular and was released in 1968, and it gave a very realistic image of outer space. Some viewers found it so realistic that a later theory was that the government had hired Kubrick to film the moon landing in a soundstage/studio. Let's just be real, okay? Like any film that is made today, and I will take into account that this was back in the 60s, so there weren't as many films like this film, but to make the film, a director needs help to make it look realistic. So Kubrick had the help of astronomical artists and aerospace engineers. Just as if you were directing a historical film, you would need a historical advisor to help you make it look true to form, right? So no, the Apollo 11 moon landing was not directed by Stanley Kubrick. It's just a very realistic film that some people have used as a justification for this conspiracy theory. Now, this last theory is very much related to scientific laws. So the final theory of today, theory number 6, is that it was impossible. Some people have argued that the moon landing would have been impossible due to the Van Allen belts. The Van Allen belts are actually huge belts of radiation that surround Earth. It's been claimed that humans would not be able to pass through them without being subjected to lethal doses of radiation. To experience radiation sickness, you would have to be exposed to about 200 to 1,000 rads of radiation within a few hours. But the Apollo 11 crew were only within these belts for less than 2 hours, which means that they were only subjected to roughly 18 rads. The spacecraft was also well insulated so that the average dose of radiation over the 12-day mission was just 0.18 rads, which, to put into context, is the same as having a chest x-ray. So, as you've seen, there are a multitude of conspiracy theories surrounding the Apollo 11 moon landings, and I myself just get quite offended, I guess is the right word, because it's simply denying one of the greatest achievements of humanity. It makes me wonder, if we were to make strides into outer space in the future, would people still find ways of denying our progress, and what kind of excuses would they use? I guess it's a completely different time now, so we'd have to wait and see. If we just focus on the fact that more than 400,000 people worked on the Apollo 11 program. This included scientists and engineers and researchers and support staff, as well as the astronauts. It is just sad to know that people have blatantly disregarded this achievement, and even though all of these theories have been proven false by science, it's interesting that these conspiracy theories are still around today and so many people still believe them. The best way to describe this is through the words of Rick Feinberg, an American anthropologist and writer. Rick debated one of the first prominent moon landing deniers, Bill Kaysing, on TV around 40 years ago. He's argued that the denial of America's great progress in space exploration and believing in these myths is more of an ideological thing, a political thing, than it is a scientific thing. And it's true, these conspiracy theories are not actually rooted in science, but personal opinion. And as we know, personal opinion can be affected by so many different factors. It is a fascinating topic, and I was so excited to cover this because I am a massive fan of space exploration and all things to do with outer space. And I am planning on making more of these types of videos, so deep diving into more conspiracy theories about different topics, or just more mysterious topics in general. If you have any ideas of what you want me to cover next, then please comment them down below. But until next time, guys, take care.